Hi, long time, a fortnight to be exact, but my name is Steve and this is Christianity Out Loud. Welcome to this week's weekly word, the 9th of March. When it goes up, it'll be the 9th of March. In Australia, it'll be the 9th of March for those of you playing along at home elsewhere. Could be the 8th, depending on where you are. Hey, thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in, wherever you may be doing that, be it YouTube, be it Rumble, be it Locals, any of those communities. A big thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. Last time I was on, I did mention that I was going to have a radio interview about the book. Technical difficulties meant that didn't happen when it was originally supposed to happen, so it will happen. Today's Tuesday, so it'll happen Wednesday. Tuesday of recording this, so it'll happen Wednesday. So by the time this goes up, that interview should have, all things going well, should have taken place. And once that's up, I'll post a link to that so you can go and have a listen if you like. Hey, if you want to grab a copy of the book, there's a link below or above or sideways or somewhere, part of the pinned comment that I do. There's a couple of links in there, and the book is one of them. Go and grab it. My first effort of writing, and I don't think I did too bad a job, if I may say so myself. So apologies I didn't get one of these up last week. We had some ridiculous amount of rain here, which basically meant all time and energy was preventing the house from being flooded. We came very close, but just a little bit of water into a few of the bedrooms and a little bit through a hole in the roof or a gap in the roof or something in the roof. So could have been a lot worse. It was something like 585 mil here in 2 days. If you don't work in millimeters, if you work in inches, I worked it out. I think I worked it out. I converted it using a converter. I think that works out to be something like 23 inches of rain in 2 days, so it was a lot of water running through. And then the car broke down, but that's now fixed. Thank you to two friends who are far more mechanically minded than myself. So that's where last week's time and energy and effort was. So I am trying to get one of these up every week. Does become a little bit difficult at times with a full-time job, but that's no excuse. That's just the way it is. So there will be occasions when I don't get one up, but trying for every week at the moment. So it's moving on to the topic for this week's weekly word. COVID's becoming less of a focus, which is marvellous, can I say? Because talk about COVID fatigue. My goodness. Anyway, moving on from COVID, that's just about enough of that. The topical thing, event, circumstance, put whatever word you like, is Russia and Ukraine. So, and before you think I'm going to proclaim to be, I am absolutely not an expert in Eastern European politics. I am not. So I'm not going to say one side is right, one side is wrong, this is why. I don't know. That's above my pay grade. But I think war is something that we should never aspire to, despite the amount of battles, etc., in the Old Testament that we read and adhere to and follow. I'm not sure any of them was the preferred option of solving a problem to start with. So and senseless, unnecessary loss of civilian life. I hope I'm not alone in thinking that that's not what anybody should be hoping for. In fact, I think quite the opposite. But as I was flicking through some articles this week regarding that, the idea of sacrifice first stood out to me. So that's sort of where I'm going to be exploring. But I hope not to link it to the Bible in a sort of corny, shallow, pastoral catchphrase sort of style. I hope not to do that, because the easy comparison would be to go, well, look what Jesus did for us, look what God did for us, sacrificed his son. Yes, but I don't want to go there if I have to. I just think that's the easy way out when exploring the context of what I'm trying to do here. I would also point out that many Russians are not supportive of the actions of their government. Trust me to go to a heavy metal band, but the vocalist for the band Slaughter to Prevail, yes, they sound exactly as you think a band named like that would sound. That aside, I don't follow them, but it did pop up on my YouTube feed, their statement. They did release a short statement a few days ago in English, actually, as well as good at English as they can speak. And the message was essentially that they love the country, the Ukraine, they love the Ukrainian people, they've toured there previously and had a wonderful time there, that they're not actually supportive of their government and their government's actions at the moment, and they would hope that the rest of the world just doesn't dismiss them or anyone else just because that they are Russian. And I think when looking at this, now we'll get to my point, I promise. I think when looking at this, that's an equally important point to consider, because UEFA, so the governing body for football in Europe, round ball football, soccer, if you like, they've banned Russian teams from competitions. Right or wrong, they've banned Russian teams. And such is the nature, the transient nature, I guess, of international professional sport. It's not always or only Russians playing for those Russian teams. It's the same as anywhere. It's not only English players playing in English teams. Other Russian sportsmen and women have been prevented from entering competitions, and even the International Cat Federation, you heard me correctly, the International Cat Federation has banned Russian breeds from competitions. That might sound ridiculous, but there's a link below that will confirm what I've just said. But, the future of feline judging competitions aside, is this the option? Is this the solution rather than the option? Sorry, is this the solution? Simply tarnishing everyone from a country with the same brush? Let's just for a minute remember that the Good Samaritan actually helped someone he wasn't meant to help. So, anyway, on to where I started, which was sacrifice, or the idea of sacrifice. Now, I've got a heap of notes regarding people just on my laptop, just past there, so if I glance over there, that's what I'm looking at for my reference. So, I've got the Klitschko brothers, Vladimir and Vitaly. I'm going to mention a few names, and you'll find out what sport they're associated with as I go. So, both professional boxers, former professional boxers, both heavyweight boxers. Vladimir had a I'll get my words in the right place. Vladimir had 69 fights with a professional record of 64 and 5 with 53 knockouts. Vitali had 47 fights. His professional record was 45 and 2 with 41 knockouts. Vasily Lomachenko, 18 fights with a professional record of 16 and 2, 11 knockouts. And Alexander Usyk, 19 fights, professional record of 19-0, 13 knockouts. Usyk is actually a world champion in 2 weight classes. He currently holds a number of heavyweight titles since he defeated Britain's Anthony Joshua September last year, unanimous decision. And prior to that, he was the undisputed cruiserweight champion. He held all 4 titles in the cruiserweight division. He's actually one of only 3 boxers to have been unified cruiserweight champion to step up to heavyweight and then win world titles there. The only other 2 were Evander Holyfield and David Haye. And all that is very interesting regarding Alexander Usyk, but possibly the most interesting or most important aspect of his life, his personality, who he is he's actually an Orthodox Christian. So there you go. Now I don't mention them because they're boxers, and I'm a fan of boxing and mixed martial arts sports. You don't have to like it. I happen to enjoy that sport. I enjoy many sports. That just happens to be one of them. I mention 2, boxing, mixed martial arts. You get the point. I don't mention them because they are former or current active athletes in that sport. I mention that because all 4 of them are actually from the Ukraine. They're all Ukrainian. They've all 4 decided to forego their current employment to go and take up arms against the invading Russian army. I don't say invading to try and tarnish anyone negatively. I say invading because that's what it looks like to me. Little old me from Brisbane, Australia. So all 4 of them have forgone their current employment and have gone to take up arms to fight. Now the Klitschko brothers are retired from boxing. I mentioned that earlier. They're both in political office. Vladimir, I think, is mayor of Kiev and Vitaly is deputy mayor, something like that. But Lomachenko and Usyk are still currently active fighters. So Lomachenko was in talks to fight Australian George Kambosos Jr. for the world titles in that weight division, and the weight division has just escaped me, so I apologise. And Usyk was in talks to face, I think it was Anthony Joshua, for a rematch, and possibly then Tyson Fury, and on and on and on, and I don't want to just name drop here. But, yeah, that's a lot of money that these currently active fighters have just given up. Prestige, all of that. And that led me to the idea of sacrifice. But interestingly, I actually couldn't find, or I had a very difficult time rather, finding an Old Testament reference to something like that. Something like, I'm going to lay down my life for. The idea of giving one's life to assist others. The Hebrew of sacrifice in the Old Testament is the word, I'm going to pronounce this incorrectly, Gorban, G-O-R-B-A with a thing over the top of it, N, how you pronounce it, but Gorban. And nothing I read, at least nothing I read, as far as commentary or explanation, did it mean anything related to laying down one's own life for someone else? If you know of one, let me know, because I'd be very interested to go and read it. If I've missed it or skipped over it, let me know. Just put it in the comments, that'll be fine. I did, though, not surprisingly, find a New Testament verse, which is John 15, verse 13, which reads, drumroll, "Greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends." I'll say that again. Greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends. Now, why would these athletes, retired ones, fair enough, the ones who are in political office in Ukraine, you go and defend the cities that you live in. But why would Lomachenko and Usyk, arguably in the prime of their careers, why would they forego millions of dollars in prize money, millions of dollars in endorsement, lifestyle that all of that brings with it, the comforts, the pleasures? I don't mean that in any negative sense, but the things that money can buy, like, say, a house in a country that isn't currently being invaded. Why would they forego all of that for the potential of dying in the street as a casualty of war? What brings a person to that point? And I think if you ask Usyk as a Christian, he may have an understanding of the concept of agape, which is one of the four meanings or four types of love in the Hebrew language. See, with English, we've sort of got a bit of a hybrid language. It's a bit of Latin, it's a bit of French, it's a bit of all sorts of things. And oftentimes we have one word that encompasses a number of different circumstances, situations, scenarios. Context is probably the better word. Whereas in Hebrew, they had four words for love. One of them was this idea of agape. What is that? Loosely translated, agape means a selfless, sacrificial, unconditional love. And an example of that would be a laying down of one's life for the betterment of others. See, I think these boxers have an understanding that in this circumstance, it's actually not about them. There is something external to them, something bigger than them, and in their mind, it requires their sacrifice. Love of country, love of fellow countrymen and women, and in Usyk's case, love of God too. I found a verse in Proverbs that I thought might just sum this up nicely. A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. I think we look at this idea of sacrifice as something that's being. We almost use it as a sort of grandstanding, soapboxy sort of mindset. We can. It fuels. It fuels a lot of music. It fuels a lot of writing and poetry and creativity. Such are those, or music in particular. As someone who's spent some time trying to get established as a musician in a past life, it's what's the old saying? You got $5,000 worth of equipment to travel 500 kilometres to get paid $50 for a gig. There's a lot of that idea of sacrifice and leaving of other people behind to go and make enough money to support family, etc. With combat sports in particular, if you look at the history of combat sports, where it began in the Roman Colosseums with gladiators fighting each other, stemming from that. I mean, in all sports there is a price to be paid. In combat sports, particularly something like boxing, where the idea is to render your opponent unconscious, so hit them in the head. We all know what concussions do to brains these days. The cost of combat sports, or even high contact sports, but particularly combat sports, the cost is a high cost. It can be a high price to pay. What are those athletes sacrificing physically for their families' long-term security? But in this instance, it's a little more than that. They're foregoing, possibly even sacrificing careers, possibly even sacrificing their lives. I hope it doesn't come to that, for something greater than themselves. A show, if you like, of that agape idea of love. I'll leave you with this thought. An old history teacher of mine, or should I say, rather than be rude to his age, although he probably is old now, I should more politely say a history teacher I had when I was at school was a lovely man, one of the best teachers I ever had. The other one was a maths teacher, but my utter ineptitude at maths, I was not a very good representation of his ability to teach. But I digress. The history teacher was again a wonderful man, a great teacher. Learned a lot from him. But he used to say the only thing that would unite humanity is an alien invasion, a threat of an external attack, or an external threat from. We're so divided outside, had to come from outside of the world. And this is talking 20 years ago when he was saying this. I just wonder here, or in the West, we are so divided culturally and socially at the moment. And the pessimist in me goes, I'm not sure there's a way back. The optimist in me says go preach the gospel. So that's what I'm trying to do here. I really wonder what it would take to unite culture and society more than we are currently united. And I also wonder if a threat like this arose in Australia, just how many people would be willing to go and sacrifice, with the high likelihood of that sacrifice being themselves, how many people would be willing to do that for that idea of agape? I'm actually going to go and do this so that my neighbour can have freedom, so that my neighbour can be safe. I wonder. And on that, not pessimistic note, but on that note, thanks for watching. Until next week, God bless.